We have big news from the Habs organization today as Jonathan Drouin will be away for an extended period of time. We also have news on Gerard Gallant coaching Team Canada, a prospect signing, and some talk about how could the Canadian teams be affected for the 2021 NHL playoffs coming up and the border closures we're dealing with. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about here today, but let's kick things off with the biggest news of the day, which is the unfortunate news that the Montreal Canadiens have announced that forward Jonathan Drouin is taking an indefinite leave of absence from the hockey club. And there's, like I said, because it's indefinite, there's no timetable on when he is going to return, and they've placed him on long-term injury reserve. So that is a very unfortunate situation. I know one of the players, Philip Deneau, was asked about this morning. He wouldn't really say anything, obviously, due to privacy. All he said is they were sad for him. So I kind of leads us to assume he's dealing with something, obviously, that's personal, that he doesn't want to reveal or talk about, which is totally his right. And, you know, his private life is exactly that, his private life. And I guess we just have to be patient here, and we'll hopefully he'll be okay and can return in the not too distant future. If he's able to come back before the regular season is over, he can do that, and in the playoffs as well. So either way, Drouin has the door open to return when he's able to. I mean, we know Jonathan Drouin has been having a not so great season. He's only got 2 goals on the year. He has obviously a bunch of assists, but you know the scoring touch has not been there. Even the assists and points are not where he wants them to be. He's had a fairly tough go at it his entire time in Montreal after being picked up in a trade for Mikhail Sergachev. Drouin was coming in with a lot of hype as being the number 1 center. Didn't really turn out to be that. They've had him on the wing. He's had his moments where he's been a productive winger, but then he's had his moments where he's been very inconsistent for stretches too. And, it can be a difficult thing to deal with. So we don't know if this is something personal to him, or is it a family thing? We really don't know, and we could speculate here all day long, and there's really no point in doing that. But I do know that Montreal Canadiens fans certainly have their fair share of Jonathan Drouin haters out there, or not fans of the player, and that's fine. You can understand that players are people too, even though you may not be a fan of how they play on the ice, or the fact they may not be living up to their contract, they may not be playing the way you want them to, or they're probably capable of. Whatever, that's all fine and dandy, but I just hope everybody can set that aside and just have a little bit of compassion for the guy as a person. We're all people first. There are things out there that trump playing hockey and that are more important than sport. I mean, obviously this is his job, this is his livelihood, and this is something that, I'm sure is extremely important to him, but whatever is going on right now is obviously more important and has to be stepped away here to take some time and deal with it. But I mean, I know he's having a frustrating season, and maybe whatever's going on has been as a result of that. Maybe it's something that's been going on longer, and he should have maybe taken away time sooner. Like, we don't know, right? That's all things that we're not aware of, and we probably are never going to know. I mean, you never know. Maybe he'll surprise us and come out and open up about it. I'm a little bit surprised in a way that the Habs were as transparent as they were. They've been known to not be the most transparent when it comes to players being away or being injured, etc. So anyways, that's what it is. So this is going to create some opportunities. As much as you sometimes have situations that are sad, unfortunate, or bad, or whatever you want to call it, generally speaking, there is some sort of an opportunity that comes from it, and it's certainly going to create an opportunity for some of the younger guys and guys that have been on the taxi squad, probably more specifically Cole Caulfield, who's had a heck of a time getting into the lineup due to the Montreal Canadiens' really tight financial salary cap situation, which suddenly, with this move, becomes a lot easier. All those issues with not having the cap space kind of go to the wayside here. Obviously, he makes a fair bit of money, over $5 million. Putting that on long-term injury reserve certainly creates some much-needed salary cap flexibility. So obviously, players like Jake Evans, like Cole Caulfield, like Romanov, will certainly have more of an opportunity to remain in the lineup and play. We'll be able to see Caulfield in there while getting other guys in there too. So that's certainly going to give them more of a chance to grow, and we'll have more of a chance to see here what they're capable of as the Montreal Canadiens trying to get things back on a positive swing here, heading towards the home stretch of the regular season and into the playoffs. I know they're still aiming to be a playoff team. Things have not been the greatest lately, and things have tightened up a lot. They're still trending to be a playoff team, but they're certainly feeling the heat from the Calgary Flames that are hot on their tail after beating them 2 out of 3 in their little 3-game series set here that they had recently. So those losses are really, quite important here and really tightens up that race. They do have a game in hand. They still have a small point lead. So they have the edge, but they need to get going here. They face the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Obviously, that's going to be a major test for them, and they need to get going down the stretch. Carey Price is out. They've had Jake Allen in the net for the most part, and for the most part, Jake has done relatively well. His stats are really solid. It's just the team has not been able to give him more goal support, which is the only reason why he doesn't have more wins. If you look at his goals against and his save percentage, it's amazing he doesn't have more W's in that column. But, at the end of the day, they just haven't been able to give him enough of an offensive push to make that happen more frequently. But at this point, they're trending towards a first-round series matchup with the Toronto Maple Leafs. At this point, things could change in the standings, but as of right now, that's how they're looking. And that would be a very entertaining concept. We haven't seen the Leafs and Habs do battle in the playoffs, and I can't remember exactly. I think it was in the late 70s. I do believe I'm going by memory here, so I might be off a little bit. But it's been the better part of over 40 years or more, like original 6 teams who used to do battle all the time before the league expanded. It's been so long that we haven't seen that, so it's going to be fun to see if it indeed does happen. It's something I'm kind of personally rooting for just from that. But Gerard is on LTIR, has flexibility to play their young kids here. Really hope that whatever he's dealing with, he can move past, and that people will leave his privacy alone, and and be a little kinder to the person, at least, even if you're not a fan of the player. Now, like I said, we have some other quick news to talk about here while we're here today. A few other NHL updates. One I want to touch on is the playoffs. And since we're talking about Canadians in the North Division playoffs, there was some talk yesterday with Gary Bettman and Bill Daly as they were talking about their new TV deal in the U.S. with new partner TNT that was announced. They were talking about the 2021 playoffs as well, briefly, and they were asked how things are going to go, because obviously the U.S.-Canada border is still closed. So as of right now, the plan still is for Canadian teams to play their first and second round series matchups in their own buildings in Canada. That likely won't change. I mean, I can't imagine any provincial authorities, taking away the ability for that to happen. They've had it happen all regular season. I know right now things in Ontario are certainly a bit of a mess with COVID. Obviously Quebec is having their own issues, Alberta. So all the areas where there's NHL cities in Canada certainly having their challenges, but clearly the NHL has trucked right on through here with obviously a few stops along the way, mostly in Vancouver being the biggest impact, and the Habs had a small impact there as well, and a few other players here and there. But certainly it's expected they'll be able to get through the first 2 rounds playing in their home buildings, but it's not really clear if they're going to be able to work out an arrangement with the Canadian federal government for teams to be able to travel back and forth once we get to the Final Four. So obviously once the divisional playoffs part is done, we'll have a division winner in all 4 divisions. Those 4 teams will be ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 will battle 4, 2 will battle 3. So obviously the Canadian team is going to have to do battle with an American team to move on to the Stanley Cup final if they can do that. So obviously it's looking like right now, unless they can come to an agreement with the federal government, which many are assuming is probably not going to happen, and if it doesn't, then the Canadian team that wins the North Division is likely going to have to temporarily relocate, basically, to have a new home hub city in the U.S., and it's probably going to be based on who their opponent's going to be. I know there's been some talk, well, if it's the Leafs, they can just go to Buffalo. It's really close by. Yes, that's all fine and dandy, but it's really going to be more important about who they play, because at the end of the day here, having them into the States is one thing, but it doesn't make sense for them to be any further away from their opponents than they need to be. And really, we don't know who they're going to be. It's not like it's a bracket perfectly here where they're going to end up playing the winner of the East Division, for example, or whatever. Like, that's not going to happen. The 4 final teams are going to be ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. They could have to play a team like the Avalanche or Vegas or one of those teams out west in the first round of the Canada versus U.S. battle here in the Final Four. So it wouldn't make sense to put them in Buffalo if they're playing playing a team like Vegas, for example, they would be based out of probably like Arizona or something that's closer, so that they can minimize travel, minimize cost, and make it easier on everybody involved. So we'll have to stay tuned for how that's going to work, but that's more than likely what's going to happen here, unless some kind of agreement can be reached, which most of us are holding our breath on, thinking it's likely not going to happen. Now, a quick signing here as well. The Dallas Stars have signed one of their prospects for the 2017 NHL draft. They signed 2017 fifth-rounder Jacob Peterson, who's a 6'1" center iceman from Sweden. He's been playing over in SHL the last few years. Past year, put up 33 points in 46 games, so certainly another interesting Swedish center there to keep your eye on. Maybe coming to the Dallas Stars organization. Likely will need some time in the American Hockey League affiliate. Not quite clear exactly if he's coming over right away or what the plan is there for his immediate future, but he is under contract now with his ELC. And of course, as I mentioned as well, it was confirmed and announced earlier today that the Team Canada squad for the World Championships coming up, which will be held overseas, being headed by Roberto Luongo and Shane Doan as the management team, will have Gerard Gallant as their head coach. So obviously Gerard Gallant going to have an opportunity to get back into a head coaching role. I'm sure he's really open to getting another NHL opportunity when that time comes and presents itself. I know the Seattle Kraken are clearly an option, given that they need a coach, being that they're a brand new team, and obviously he was the first ever coach for Vegas, so he knows all too well what it's like to coach a brand new expansion team, and he had a ton of success there. And even though he was let go in exchange for Peter DeBoer to take over, the team did not really falter, and they had a great record there. And even if you look at his time before that in other situations as a head coach in Florida, an assistant coach on multiple occasions, a great head coaching resume from his time in junior, won Memorial Cup with the St. John Sea Dogs. Like, the guy's won a lot. He's got a great track record. He's going to get a chance. It's just a matter of time. So whether it be the Kraken or one of the other NHL teams that are likely looking for a new head coach here once the offseason hits, this is a good chance for him to kind of show that he's still interested and to show what he's capable of here in the head coaching role. Of course, he's going to have assistants Mike Kelly and Andre the Bear Turingi joining him on the bench. So that's certainly a pretty decent coaching staff. One thing I do feel is likely going to be a challenge, though, is obviously getting people to travel overseas for this tournament, given everything going on in the world with the pandemic. Clearly, there's going to be a lot of protocols and everything in place, which is certainly understandable. It's not that they can't do their best to create a safe working environment for these players. I'm sure they can, and hopefully everything will go just fine. But the one thing that everybody can probably attest to here and acknowledge and admit is that this has got to be exhausting for them more than any other season. I mean, think about what we go through as just regular people. At times when you have to limit your times going out of the house and limit where you go and stay home as much as possible and all that, like it can be quite tiring not having what we used to call normal life. So for some of these guys going through a full season, including many times on the road where they go from hotel to rink to hotel. And when they're home, they go from home to rink and vice versa, and that's about it. Like, it's taking its toll on everybody. It's really tiring, so they might have a hard time getting, especially guys that are a little bit older and have families and all that kind of stuff, might not be willing to make that sacrifice for their country like they have in the past. So I would suspect for this World Championship team, and all the other countries too for that matter, you're probably going to see a lot of younger players that might be looking to make a name for themselves, that are certainly have a strong pedigree, especially ones that may have worked with Hockey Canada in the past, would probably be beneficial. But if you're younger, you don't have those responsibilities, you may not have kids yet, you might not be married yet and all that stuff, you don't have all those other things to consider. I would think we're probably going to be seeing a young lineup. So I would imagine Luongo as the GM and his assistant Shane Doan are going to have a hard time getting some vets on board, but we'll see what they can do here. But at least they have a good coaching staff in place, and hopefully this tournament can take place in safely, and we can see what the World Championships here can bring. So let me know your thoughts and everything involved in today's news down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.